Thanks for stopping by the Hitchin Post. My name is Brian David Hitchin, and today I had a bit of an exercise for you. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll probably recognize this. It's a little sketch I did of one of my characters. I was mainly just playing around with blending marker and colored pencil, and I really liked the effect. This is probably what I'm going to be going for with my comic book. But I like it so much that I want to have a larger version of it. As you can see, I kind of got rid of all the, whoops, I got rid of all the posters and everything in the background. I repainted the office. Um, and I thought to myself, you know what, instead of having other people's art on my background, it should be my art, right? So I'm going to try to recreate this 4 by 6 sketch onto an 11 by 17 bristle board. So let's get started. Alrighty guys, so we're going to attempt to try to get mostly this exact same drawing onto a larger 11 by 17. I'm going to be fixing some things along the way. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of learn from my mistakes and redo some of these bits and pieces here. But this is, as far as what I'm using, I'm just using an HB lead holder, and I got a Strathmore bristle board. I'm using smooth because we're going to be doing this in marker just like the original, and if I found that if you use vellum or the more toothy bristle board, the marker bleeds quite a bit, a lot further than you want it to. And I'm going to be using the other side that doesn't have the comic book layout here, just because I'm going to be hanging this up on the wall. So this is actually, after a few attempts of doing this, I wasn't really quite getting the results I wanted. The proportions were never looking quite right. So I think the trick is that we're going to be paying a lot of attention to the negative space. So we're going to be trying to recreate this shape here as well as this shape on top. Because I keep trying to just draw the robot, redraw the robot freeform, and it's just not looking the way it should. It's either getting too large, too small, and this guy's too far away or too close. So we're going to try to go by negative space, and we're not really going to do a super detailed outline here. We're just going to get this basic shape. So let's see here. And typically I like to work in non-photo blue lead, but the camera doesn't quite pick it up that well. So we're just going to... Yeah, it's pretty tricky because I don't think that this is the same aspect ratio. It might be. The 11 by 17 seems a little taller and narrower, but that might just be the eyes. Let's see here. Let's say the ground is maybe right here, and then we go up. Maybe the robot shape is like that, comes in a bit over there. Maybe a little lower. And some of the leg here. You see, there's quite a bit of space up here, so I can't go too far up. The arm joint is pretty much almost in the center, so I can kind of use that as a guide. So this will be just slightly right of center. And we've got the whatever I want to call these, the exhaust system in the back of the robot, I guess. See, now this is already, so you can see that this comes down a lot more because of where these things are. Either I've made these way too long. Looks like maybe they should end right about there, the blue parts. And then those 3 lines are about right here. I've got that whole section squared off about that far down. And then I've got where the black shading ends, probably more like right about here, and then a little bit more of the underside here. So one of the things I'm going to fix, actually a few different things. One, I'm not a huge fan of my robot design. This was kind of on the fly. I didn't really think about the design really, so I'm going to add a few more unique characteristics that make it specific to my story. But there's a few lessons to take away here in this drawing. One of the biggest problems here is where this gun and the leg intersect. I've got a pretty bad tangent here. So we've got a tangent with the gun. Let me see if I can zoom in here. So with the edge of the gun, both sides of the gun here, makes a perfect tangent with how wide this knee is. And it almost looks like either this part of the gun is a part of the knee, and part of the problem there is my coloring. My coloring matches the knee more than it matches the rest of the gun. So that's a problem on top of the tangent with the knee. So I think one of the things we're going to have to do here is either make this knee a lot larger and maybe move it over here, make it recede more over here, or just have the leg foreshortened a bit more. I think we're going to try to keep this fairly flat because I like the iconic sort of, one man standing on his own, completely encapsulated by this shape here. So if I were to start having things coming out at you, which I've done a few versions of this, and I found that it kind of loses that feeling. And what else? I think that's about all that I wanted to change, other than the details of the robot. I might have this gun come down a bit more, and this one more or lengthen this one, shorten this one. But that's about it. Let's see here. So we've got the shoulder of the robot about here. And the elbow outside of the gun. And so you can, again, you want to pay attention to negative space when you're doing this. So this is too small right here. I've got this really tiny triangle forming right here, whereas here it's way more elongated. So my new drawing is more like that. So I need to budge this shape over a bit more over here. There we go. And then the leg probably starts about right there, maybe. Doesn't have to be too exact. It's not the most important part of the drawing, but it helps to get these proportions on track. There we go. So that negative shape matches a lot better, as you can see. And then we got the underside here. So yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that should be good. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna move that knee way over here. That's much better. And so we need to make sure that this actually, that this line actually continues through. I think that's another problem, is that the line, it kind of curves inward a little bit like that, and then it goes straight again. Same with this, this is pretty straight, and then this starts going to the left. So this goes inward and out, inward, and then straight. So we're going to actually make sure this time that these lines actually follow through. I think it's okay if it curves a little bit like that. It just needs to be continuous. Because I'm fine with the curves. Kind of gives it... I kind of want to go for an animation feel, but, you know, more detailed. I want it to have the movement and the energy and the movement of animation, but the visceral detail of a comic book, if that makes any sense. I might be talking out of my ass, I don't know. Industry professionals, you know, they get pretty hung up on terminology. And it makes sense, you know, there's specific words for specific things, and they get upset when you use the wrong words. Because, you know, a lot of, you know, we'll just call them normies. They use certain words to sound smart or to sound like they know what they're talking about, but they're usually using them incorrectly. Actually, I'm going to kind of have a video about that. I've been talking about for a while now my video on premise, and it's not going to focus on the misuse of the word, but just the fact that the word has been misused so often that now the word is synonymous with other words, so the meaning of premise no longer is talked about. Still working on that. It's just I really don't want the video to be longer than a half hour, and so far it's been a struggle to try to get all that I want to say in a 30-minute video, because there's a lot that I want to go over. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's yeah, that's the best one I've done so far. Like I said, I've attempted this a few times, and I think the problem was I wasn't paying attention enough to the negative spaces. See, and I've got the same negative space over here as I do there. Right there, I mean. Yeah, I think this is looking a lot better. Then we just need to make sure that this, you know, the gun is still aiming at this dude's head. Looks like this mountain will be a lot lower than I thought, because I'm trying to pay, because this is the most important part of the piece, is that the guns are actually aimed at him at a certain distance. So it's more important that these guns are aimed at him and that he's the proper distance away from these, rather than, oh my god, the mountain is not as high as I wanted it to be. That's a lot less important. So there's the helmet there. And I think one thing I'm going to do is I might add a little bit more dynamic posing to this guy. You know, right now he's just standing there very stoically. But I might add just a little bit of flair here. I think we'll make it be a bit more obvious that he's standing contrapposto. If you don't know what that means, and I'm pretty sure I mispronounced it, that means when you're standing that way, actually the Greeks came up with it when they were doing their sculptures, you have the shoulders and the hips offset. You never have them parallel to each other, because that looks really flat, it looks really boring. So if you have them standing contrapposto, which most people do, you know, most people when they're standing, they're going to carry most of their weight to one side, and this is what happens when you do that. So I think we're going to have more of a curve in here, although, you know what, grab my eraser, I think I'm going to have to do it the opposite. The reason for that is, so I have this hip bone, this pelvic bone higher. That means the knee would have to be coming up on this side. But I want it on this side, because if I have it on this side, then I've got another thing pointing directly at the gun here. And, you know, that's going to create some too much sameness, I guess you could call it. So we'll do this a little differently. Because now these lines are going to be different than this. Because I was having another line go right to the gun. You see that? So I think instinctively that's why I made the knee on that side. I might not have realized it at the time. I was just drawing off of instinct. But now that I've done the opposite, now I realize, okay, that's why I did it that way. So yeah, I'm not gonna get too detailed right here. When I pencil for the purposes of inking, I don't like to get too detailed because it kind of takes some of the life away from it. There's a lot of comic book art out there that the inks look traced, and inking is a lot more than just tracing. But if you just trace exactly over pencils, it can look a little static. So that knee up. So that action line is going to be kind of like that. So I always want to have my S curves in mind. There we go. And I've got, I think I've kept that negative shape here too, a little bit. Yeah. I do like that this little hill he's standing on isn't as pronounced. It's not like he's on a mountain or anything. And I don't have this being a triangle here going off page for two reasons. One, I like this lighting effect. I like the shadow and the dark coming around the sides here, because now it makes a spotlight on him, and it makes him more of the focal point. But also, there's another reason why you wouldn't want to make this a hill right here, because now that I have this horizon line going out, now you know for a fact that this robot is standing on it. If I had it going down, you'd be like, well, what is he standing on? And yeah, sure, maybe this mountain goes off the page and it comes down like that, and maybe his foot's over here. But the reader doesn't really know that. The reader's not going to know when this foot ends. And so it's going to feel like it's floating. So you want to have... you want to keep the horizon line on the page, at least in this instance. Okay. So I think you get the idea here. So yeah, I think this turned out pretty good. Add the smoke here. I might have it not completely circle around the gun. Might have it more like that. If you're wondering how I'm deciding the smoke goes that way, anything that moves is going to have curves. And all these curves are going to be going into each other. Honestly, it takes a lot of practice, but the more straight and flat you go, the more lifeless it's gonna look. Oh, I forgot I gotta have this gun out here too. I think I'm gonna have this gun come out a little bit further than it is in the drawing here. That might be another problem, is that, yeah, it's coming down a little bit lower, but maybe not enough, because I'm almost getting, the guns are kind of meeting themselves exactly. Not quite, but almost. It's creating a horizontal implied line, and there's so if I have this one maybe meet a little bit lower down here, it's going to create more dimension because they're offset. And I like more that the gun is coming out from behind this joint. I like it better that way. Over here, it almost looks like a certain appendage. Apologies, but yeah. But I think it's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna add some of the smoke here on this part now. There we go. Yeah, that's looking really good. Cool. So yeah, for now I'm just going to put it on a time lapse so you can see the inks and the colors get finished. Alrighty, so we're all finished. I'm pretty happy with the results here. I want to talk to you about some of the improvements that I made along the way, kind of on the fly. You know, little problems I was noticing here. For starters, the big one for me was I didn't like how this looked. Um, I had layered yellow under the green marker, and then I proceeded to put colored pencil on top, but it kind of made it too pronounced. So then this bright yellow was kind of, in my opinion, kind of combating with the blue and the pink and sort of making it all on one plane almost, kind of flattening the image, in my opinion. So I didn't do any colored pencil on the background. It's just all marker layered with yellow and two different greens, a dark green and like a parrot green or something like that. I got rid of some of the details on the mech. You know, I got rid of these little yellow cables. Just trying to simplify the design. And if I making a rule for myself, if I don't know what it does or what it's doing there, I get rid of it. um, see what else. Oh, yeah, definitely changing the pose here to something a bit more dynamic. I like this a lot more. It looks like he's ready to fight. Here, he's like, I'm kind of tired. I don't know if I'm just standing here for a photo op or or what. Um, Other than that, oh, we definitely changed the tangent that was happening here. So that looks much better. You can clearly see that this is a separate limb from this one right here, and made the coloring consistent, going from light to dark. I do like how this looks a lot more like rock. This one wasn't quite nearly detailed enough. This one you can clearly see the different planes and crevices and all that stuff. Added a windshield right there with some reflections, so that looks pretty cool. And hopefully you'll agree that I've been able to convey a sort of older animation look. You know, for like things with the helmet, the glass helmet is simply just a white outline. And I try to do, similar with this. It's just colored pencil. And with the backgrounds looking so dark and the character in front, being so clean and bright, hopefully I've been able to convey that sort of classic animation look. And this is simply just a logo I was able to come up with. We will soon find out what that means in the graphic novel. But yeah, overall pretty satisfied. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the wall. Hey, look at that! It's almost identical. Other than the sketch card looks a little longer. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, that's blowing up an image from a tiny one to a large one. Yeah, I'm so happy with it. I think I'm gonna eventually just cover this whole wall with my art, various shapes and sizes of my characters and stuff. So I hope you like the video, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.